Jerry on Ice version of the PT on Ice Daily Show. My name is Christina Prevett. I'm one of the two lead faculty in the Division of Modern Management of the Older Adult. I hope you guys are having a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. I'm sorry that I'm a couple of minutes late. In Kingston, where I live, there is a huge difference in the amount of traffic between when school is in session and when it isn't. And when we first moved, we moved from Toronto, which is so busy and so congested that my husband and I used to poke fun at everyone from Kingston because they would say, "Oh my goodness, the traffic." And now that we've been here for a couple of years, I definitely came in and was like, "Oh my goodness, the traffic." And so I have now been converted to a Kingstonian when it comes to my ideas around that type of thing. Good morning, Kelsey. And so today I thought I would talk about falls prevention. And so I titled this talk, "I Don't Care, I'm Not Worried About Falls in My Clients Over 65. And this is a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek from a discussion that we had this weekend at the Modern Management of the Older Adult course. We were in Torrington, Wyoming. We had an amazing group of clinicians that were from a variety of settings. And one of the things we started talking about was, why is 65 this magical number? Why are we all of a sudden, when a person is 65, now we are worried about them having a fall, and anytime we're identifying risk factors or people have talked about having a fall, we go into this spin of, okay, I know that falls are bad, falls can lead to hospitalization, hip fracture, all those types of things, injury, blah, 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 blah. Why is 64.99 or 64 years and 360 days not considered an issue? And we have this threshold of 65. And a lot of that is based on statistics. So we look at falls risk profiles and we put this into a statistical algorithm that kind of spits out when we see this large increase in slope in regards to people who have had injuries or negative consequences as a result of a fall. And that is where we start to get the idea that it's the 65 threshold that is going to lead to increased risk for all those negative things. And my argument that I was making is that that 65 is more of a statistical output. And so we know that, 1 out of 4, one half of falls happen in and around the home for individuals who are over the age of 65. 75% of falls have, or 75% of people in long-term care facilities have a fall each year, and 1 in 3 people over the age of 65 fall each year, which is, for any outpatient orthopedic therapist, is at least a third of their caseload. So a big population that we are seeing. And when we look at falls risk, we know that probably the biggest risk factor for having a fall is having had a fall in the previous 6 months to 2 years, which accelerates our risk of having a subsequent fall by about 2.5 times. And then we start looking at risk injury profile. The argument that I was trying to make this weekend is that although age is a risk factor for falls, and as we get older and we have less reserve, less resiliency, topics that Dustin and I have talked a lot about on the podcast, I am looking more at a person's assessment for me to realize what their risk is. So when there was a research study that was done, a qualitative research study that was asking master's level athletes about falls risk. So average age was in the low to mid 70s, and they said, what do you think about a fall? And one of the quotes that was pulled out of these interviews was, "Well, when I fall, I just get back up." And that was really enlightening to me because these are people who are over the age of 70, people that potentially, if they were seeing a healthcare provider and they had mentioned that they had fallen on the pickleball court or fallen while doing a trail run or a hike, it may have prompted further investigation on the side of the healthcare provider because they hit this threshold of 65 and they have had a fall. But on the other flip side of that, a person who is a master's level athlete is going to have an optimal level of reserve and resiliency They're not going to be afraid to get up and off the floor. Floor transfers are not usually going to be an issue, and they're just going to pop back up. These are the people who are probably having no problem continuing gardening, hanging out with their grandkids on the floor, playing with them, all those types of things. And so I have clients who are in their 40s and 50s who have complex medical histories, multi-morbidity, they're fairly sedentary. And I would worry, and I would argue that I am worrying more about that 50-year-old with that impairment profile than somebody who's in their 70s who is very, very active. And so I guess the bottom line that I'm trying to bring across in this podcast is that sometimes we use age as a direct parallel to functional capacity. We've talked about this a lot when it comes to ageism, and we know that that risk is there, and that drives some of our healthcare utilization, some of our healthcare agendas. But when it comes to one-on-one interactions, I'm aware of the statistics, but I am going to worry, or my level of worry is going to be dictated not by the age of the person that is sitting in front of me, but by the functional assessment and objective measures that I am using to see if they're hitting certain thresholds. One of the very, very cool things about working in geriatrics is that we have a whole host of functional outcome measures, many of them related to endurance, strength, and balance. And there are very well validated cutoff scores that identify people who are at risk for falls. For an example, the Berg Balance score has a fairly severe cutoff. I believe it's 42, where if you have a Berg under the 42, you have a 100% risk of having a fall. This goes up to 51 if you've had a fall in the past. And so those are the situations where if people have expressed that they are, afraid of falling, they have a fear, they are having had falls in the past, or we're identifying risk factors, and they are 63, I am just as worried, if not more worried, than my 80-year-old who is still able to get up and off the floor, who's doing burpees in my gym right now. And so in that light, I think we as clinicians, we need to be aware of the language that we are doing. Have you ever been in an assessment and had a person who is 66 years old who's identifying with some risk and came to see you because he had his first ever fall and happened to have had an injury? Are we starting to say, well, you are over the age of 65 now, starting to almost instill that fear in them around, what it is like to have a fall, or what that fall can do in terms of, we know that it's at risk for transitioning into long-term care, especially if there's an injury from a fall, all those types of things. Are we starting to instill fear because of a person's birth date? Are we starting to use that age as one of the justifications for our treatment, or are we using age as a factor in a combination with our assessment, especially those assessments that have well-validated scores in regards to falls risk, in regards to knowing what these risk factors are for subsequent or first time falling, and using that as a combination to assess their risk profile. And I think that's going to be a really important topic, because especially as our life expectancy is going up and we have individuals whose health span, which is an optimized level of optimized quality of life that isn't about the absence of chronic conditions, but about the management of any chronic conditions and the healthy lifestyle factors that a person abides by. As people are trying to optimize that health span, I would argue that I'm going to have some clients who are in their 70s, 75, who I'm not going to be extremely worried about falls risk. All right, short and sweet today. I am one of the faculty that tends to ramble when it comes to falls. I start to ramble when it comes to anything Geri PT, so I'm going to get off here today. But I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. If you are interested in hearing me ramble more about all things geriatrics, I encourage you to jump onto our next online cohort of Modern Management of the Older Adult. We get started next week. And we are also, our next course, we actually have a little bit of a break. It's been a little bit crazy. We've been traveling a lot, is in November, and we are in New Jersey. So if you are near the New Jersey area and you are trying to see us live, that is where our next online course is. Then we will take a little bit of a break, and you will see me in Baton Rouge, Louisiana in January. All right, have a wonderful, wonderful week. and we will talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.